are CHP officers. So Inglewood Avenue approaching 139th Street, Rick. And when we have a DUI suspect potentially behind the wheel, knowing that, we haven't seen a ton of erratic driving, though.
No, not so much. We have not. But you can still see that the driver's clearly agitated at this point. And we're heading into SoFi territory now as we head northbound on Inglewood Avenue here. But stopping at some of the stoplights and then going through others, even though it's a red light, which that individual will be written up for any vehicle infraction that he or she does here. And stopping right there, that's at 135th Street there on Inglewood Avenue. Why? Everybody asks, what's in the mindset of these individuals? Well, clearly, they don't want to go to jail. They clearly know that something is up. They've been lit up. They should be pulling over and adhering to the officers, to the California Highway Patrol. As you said, Marla, this started in the Compton area here, but they're just not doing that. They're going to do whatever they can to evade police, to evade the California Highway Patrol, and they're doing so in a very erratic way, in that there are times where the driving is erratic, where they are running through red lights, but then there's times like this where they're stopping at a red light here.
And you wonder, I know when watching from home, people say, well, why don't they just ram the vehicle? Why don't they bring this to an end? When they have everything that they strategize, Rick, and it's important to point out that public safety
pulling to the right
is number one, pulling to the right.
Yep. Let's see what happens here. No, you're exactly right, Marla, in terms of
the blinkers on.
Bringing this to a safe conclusion. And right here, it looks like they've pulled over to the right here for no other reason except like, hey, I'm going to just pull over to the right and stop and see what happens here, because there's no reason that that individual cannot continue on. Now, here's the situation. Now, officers, the California Highway Patrol out. They are clearly giving on a bullhorn very explicit instructions to this individual. Put your hands out, get out of the vehicle, let us see your hands, let's lay you down on the road. We're going to make sure that you don't have any contraband, any weapons, and we're going to bring this to a conclusion finally. Inglewood Avenue here, northbound side, coming up towards SoFi Stadium. We'll see what happens here. Well,
just noticing on that little further wide, zoomed out shot, the innocent bystanders who were there, it looks like a gas station or maybe a car service there, and the officers telling them, those innocent pedestrians, to stand back because you never know what's going to happen, as we wait to see if the driver is going to either roll down the window or get out of the vehicle. Because, Rick, to your point, that is protocol. If you're going to stop, you're going to get out, you're going to put your hands up, you're going to have your back to them, you're going to walk backward, and you will do exactly what these CHP officers direct you to do.
And it's difficult because, as you can see, as I've mentioned a few times now, that there are tinted windows here in the vehicle, but it looks like that window's down, right?
Yeah, it does look like the window's
it looks
down.
like the window's down on the driver's side. It looks like some gestures from the hands there. It looks like a male, so it looks like a male driver.
Backward.
Yep, and communicating in some capacity to the officers, to the California Highway Patrol members behind him. Windshield wipers clipped on there, perhaps by accident. Unclear if there's anybody else in that vehicle. But what they have to assume, Marla, always, is that that individual is armed. They just have to assume that. We've seen tragic situations of late in Riverside County, and that's what the mindset is always. The adrenaline is up with these officers. They've been chasing this man. They've been telling him to pull over. They've lit him up, and he does not. So they have to assume the worst.
And suspected of driving under the influence in addition to all of this as well.
Exactly.
And Rick, to your point, they also have to assume that as we see the back window crack there, that there are more than one suspect. There is more than one suspect inside. We don't know that to be true yet. We'll see momentarily, I hope.
We've seen it all. Okay, there you go. There's the passenger side, and there we go. Okay, now we got the driver's door open, passenger door open, female coming out on her cell phone.
And a dog.
And a dog, holding the dog there. Yeah, this is something else. And
this is not what they're supposed to be doing.
No, absolutely not. So we'll see how, but there...
Is that a French bulldog, by the way?
It looks like it is. You're absolutely right there, Marla. And the situation is that very casual. You can see that the demeanor of the driver, a male driver, a female passenger, on her phone. and holding, it looks like maybe another phone in her hand, something else. And that is a situation that the officers don't like to see, that it looks like two phones, one that she's speaking to, and the driver just acting very like nonchalantly, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost like they're saying, let us explain, as we bring in Christine Devine into our coverage now. And Christine, you've been watching this unfold, and you saw the erratic driving on the 405. Here we are now, basically in Hawthorne, and they get out like,
Petting the dog.
hey, wait.
Petting the dog.
Not only that, I'm watching this woman here on not one but two different cell phones there.
Look at her.
This is not the behavior you want when it comes to compliance. Although you see law enforcement, they're working with them, yes, to try to get this to come to an end here.
So it seems like there's some confusion, because I feel like officers would have handled this much differently.
Yeah.
Right, Rick? Because you're supposed to get out back to the officers.
This is very rare. So I don't know what the backstory is here, that they have not like cuffed him and grabbed him.
Right.
Well, as you see there, they're trying to get the two separated.
And her, she keeps talking on the phone.
Yeah, they're trying to get the two separated so police can figure out what's going on here. You see, this is a dangerous situation where you have two people involved. The man there not complying, the woman there trying to be separated from him, and they're not wanting to be a part of that.
And it looks like they're more interested in her than him.
Well, they need to get him apart. They need to get him apart so they can bring this to a close. The man holding the dog here, which, you know, the public is watching this, a woman, a dog, a young man not complying here.
And now being told to sit down at the very least, and holding on tight to that dog, which, as we pointed out, looks to be a French bulldog. We don't know if this is their dog. We don't know the backstory that we're seeing unfold here. There are so many questions to be answered, but obviously, I mean, we all have hearts for, you know, pets who are involved, innocent pets, and of course, we don't know the story of either one of these, this young woman and this young man.
And she, it looks like, has been detained officially and cuffed.
Okay.
He has not, right?
They're taking the dog now.
They're just taking the dog away.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And
I mean, they're being very patient. Now it looks like they will cuff this man as well. And again, if you're just tuning in, this started as an alleged DUI suspect being chased out of Compton through the South Bay cities on the 405, exiting at Inglewood Avenue. And here we are at Inglewood and 135th Street in the Hawthorne area, heading northbound up towards SoFi Stadium.
And let's note also, sometimes they're cuffing someone like a passenger for officer safety. They did search her for any kind of weapons or anything that could hurt an officer. Sometimes it is to detain you, to get you safely out of the way while the situation's still being assessed here. The way this has played out here is very interesting, to think of the conversations there on the ground by law enforcement in trying to work with this couple to bring them into custody or end this pursuit situation. Because, Rick, as you noted, this was a pursuit.
It was, but what's so unique about this is the patience and the demeanor of the California Highway Patrol and these two suspects, who were essentially leading the way here, coming out. The woman was on her cell phone, had another cell phone. He had a dog. They were waving their arms. And the officers there were very compliant in regards to their behavior. Well, now they are taking them both into, or at least detaining them both. They've taken the dog and communicating with both of them, a male and female, in that sedan. It doesn't, we haven't seen from our vantage point if they completely cleared that vehicle and held up those four fingers, but it looks like that's what they're doing right now to make sure there's nothing else in that vehicle. And they throw those four fingers up, meaning code 4, all clear from the vehicle, and they have those two individuals in custody. A backstory here for sure that we do not know about, Marla and Christine.
Yeah, and they took that dog. You know, you have to wonder, is it because there was a dog involved that they handled this a little bit more gingerly? They also could have gotten more pertinent information during the pursuit. So they may have, once they pulled over, these officers may have known a lot more than we do, which is often the case, of course. So we will look forward to getting more answers.
She looks agitated a little bit. She was the more agitated when the female passenger, who was on her phone the whole time, even when they pulled over and she got out of the vehicle, and the officers were trying to take both of them into custody, or at least detain them.
Yeah, she was on two phones, and both were trying to get information or talk to the officers, explain something to the officers. We don't know if either or both are under the influence. There was a concern that this might be a DUI situation, but they were both trying to speak with the law enforcement officers, and that could explain the demeanor there. Perhaps there's some kind of communication there going on where they're discussing things that we aren't privy to right now as to why you see the demeanor here. But obviously for officer safety, they have to separate the two, get the information, and make sure everybody's protected.
And we're still waiting for that code 4, which means that the scene is clear. I haven't seen them check the trunk because always, Rick, right? With protocol,
That's right.
They always
Absolutely.
need to check the trunk in a situation like this.
And that vehicle with all those tinted windows, we just didn't know. We were guessing if there was another individual in the car, and sure enough, we saw that passenger door open up, and the female came out of that vehicle, and she's the one who, again, appears a little bit more agitated in the conversation. You could see her demeanor. The male suspect there in the red long-sleeve shirt appears a little bit more mellow, so to speak, and speaking to the officers here. Both have been detained, and when we say that, meaning that they have been cuffed and are being held at this point. If this was an alleged DUI, they will conduct what we call a field sobriety test to see if that's the case, and they will carry on the situation from there. But it does appear that there probably is more of a story behind all this. But the bottom line is that what we did see when this pursuit was happening is this driver was definitely driving erratically at times and attempting to evade police.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just looking. The male, he's not cuffed, correct?
At least one hand.
At least one hand.
I mean, he's being detained, but
Okay.
you're right. He's not completely handcuffed. She is.
Okay.
She is, right? That's what it looks like.
And now we don't have eyes on the dog.
Yeah,
One of those
his left arm is clearly open, and he was the driver. He was the driver, so that's what makes this situation very unique, and we'll see what happens, and we'll try to get more information for you. CHP units pulling away.
Well, amazing work as we watched police there diffuse this situation and try to figure this out here. We thank you for watching us early here on Fox 11. We're going to begin our newscast here as we continue to watch this play out and try to get more information.
And now at 5, the home of legendary crooner Johnny Mathis threatened by a hillside.
You were just listening into our Fox 11 team as they were dissecting this police pursuit as they had somebody potentially driving erratically there in Los Angeles. So we're going to follow that very closely here on Live Now from Fox. And if we have more details on what actually transpired to make this happen, we will bring it to you here on Live Now from Fox. I want to cue it up one more time, just what we were watching unfold here, as it was a bizarre situation as the two suspects in this